Hello guys, welcome to Online Web Tutor presented by Profotech Solutions team. I am Sanjay. We are learning CodeIgniter Framework Beginners tutorial. This is our part number 38. Inside this video session guys, we will discuss about directory helper and download helper in our CodeIgniter application. And also guys, if you are a beginner to the channel, then please don't forget to subscribe and keep watching our previous video sessions to get the clear concept about CodeIgniter Framework tutorial. So in our previous video session guys, we had discussed about file helper in our application. Now inside this video, we are going to discuss about directory helper. So what basically this helper means? Directory helper itself, the name clears that we are going to work with our directory. So if I back to our folder structure, now inside this application setup, as we can see that we have application, capture images, files, system, uploads and user guide. These are known as directory. Now inside this directory, like application, we have multiple directories, and inside each directory we have multiple files. Now if we want to list all these files, means inside directories files including our hidden files, so for that we are going to use a function basically provided by our directory helper. So if I back to editor, so first of all I'm going to make a route. So let's say route, let's say my hyphen, let's say directory, and we are going to use the same controller. So let's say learn helpers. Inside this I'm going to make, let's say, my working directory. Now this is the method that we have to define inside learn helpers controller. So let's say public function, this is our method name, and now all we have to code inside this method. So before use any functions including our directories function, basically we have to load our helper, and that helper known as directory helper. So this load, let's say helper, and inside this helper method we have to pass, let's say, directory. Now by loading this directory, we can access the function of it, and by using those functions we can work with our directories. Now let's say that we want to list all the files inside this application folder. So back to our code editor, let's say that firstly, let's say directory path, and we want to list all the files and directories inside root folder, and we have to go inside application folder. So let's say that all dirs, and basically we are going to use a function something called directory underscore map. Inside this function we have to pass this folder path. Now I'm going to pasting it here. Now save this file, back to our routes. If I copy this route name, back to our browser, and now let's say that index.php, and if I put here pressing enter, and now I think that we haven't printed, so go to controller again and let's say print r, and inside this let's all dirs. So if I save this file, back to browser, reload this page, now all the files are listed. Let me make some formatting. So if I type echo, and if we will use something called p-tag, save this controller. Now go again here. Now as we can see that this is all about our directory name. Inside this core directory, back to folder structure, inside this application folder we have something called the first folder, we have something core. Inside this core only a single file, we have something called index.html. Next what we have something called cache. Inside this folder same we have single file. Inside this hooks folder we have single file. Inside this config folder we have these files. If I go again, as we can see that inside views folder we have, if I back to folder structure, application, views, inside this views we have another directory something called errors. Inside this errors we have another directories called CLI and HTML. So on something called hierarchy of directories. So back to browser, it has listed like views, errors, inside CLI these files we have, inside HTML these files we have. Now it is called the sibling of listing of all directories. Now let's say if we want to print only the directory name, it means that if I go here, this is our directory name, this is here, this is here. Now if we want to print only the directory name, what basically we have to do? Back to editor. Now in the second parameter, we have to pass either 1 or the true value. By passing this second parameter as a true, it will list only the directory names. Back to our browser, reload this page. Now as we can see that we have 14 folders in our application folder. Now inside here like Go, Cache, Hooks and so on up to Logs directory. If I back to folder structure, now go at the root. Now as we can see that if I press Ctrl H, by pressing Ctrl H, as we can see here, we have some hidden files like edit config, git ignore and several files like git. These all are hidden files. Now we want to list all the hidden files of this directory. So how can we list about hidden files? Because if we get rid of that, go to browser, reload this page. Now all the files or the directories we have listed, but remember inside this listing there is no hidden files. So how can we list that? If I back to code editor, let's say that by passing here as a false value, it means that we want all the directories and the files. In the third parameter, again we have to pass some boolean value like true or false. So if I pass true value here, it will list all the hidden files. But remember, while passing this true value as the third parameter, it will list only the hidden files, not the hidden directories. So if I back to folder structure, now inside this folder structure, remember we have application folder, and inside this folder this is a hidden file called .htaccess. Now if I press Ctrl H, as we can see it is hidden. If I again press, it is now unhide. So how can we list that? Firstly we have to pass true value here as a third parameter. Back to browser, reload this page. Now as we can see that inside this listing we have one more file, something called .htaccess. This is hidden file. Now by using directory helper guys, we are going to access about directory map function. By using this first parameter, we can list all the files and the directory of this provided path. If we pass the second value as true, it will give all the directories names, mean parent names. If we pass the true value as the third parameter, it will include all the hidden files. So according to these functions guys, firstly we have completed our first point, that is called directory helper. Now let's start about download helper. So to understand about download helper, if I go to folder structure, go to root. Now inside this files folder we have two files, like one is Excel sheet and simply the second file is called .txt. Now if we want to download this file from this path, so how can we make use of this download helper? So back to our code editor. Now if I make comment of this line, so comment that, and again if I just comment all these lines here. Now instead of directory we are going to use called the download. So by loading this download helper, we have a function available like force_download. So by using force_download function, we can download any file from application setup. So let's say that download, let's say path, and we want to download something in the current directory inside files folder, and we want to download the file something, let's say client_side_data.xlsx. so let's say client_side data.xlsx. okay, so now we are going to download that. So force_download, this is the function basically provided by this download helper. Now only we need to pass this directory path inside this force download. In the second parameter we are going to pass called the null value. We will understand in a bit why actually we have passed null parameter here. So if I save this file, back to our browser, reload this page. Now as we can see here, we have successfully downloaded that Excel sheet file. Again if I reload this page, again we have downloaded that file. If I go to code editor, let me say that instead of this client-side XLS sheet, we want to download called sample.txt. Now if I save this controller, back to browser, reload this page, now successfully we have downloaded this sample1.txt. Why? Because we have downloaded already this file. If I back to code editor, now let's say that why we have passed null parameter here as a second parameter. So if I make comment of this line, and let's say that file name, and let's say that we are going to make something called layout.txt. Inside this layout.txt, or let's say welcome.txt, now we are going to put some data inside this file. So let's say welcome to online web tutor. Now if I save this file, and I'm going to copy this file name, copy and paste this line, comment the first line, and the first parameter I'm going to pass the file name. Basically this file does not exist in our application setup, but we have used that because we are going to dynamic generate this file and download to our. In the second parameter, I am going to pass this data variable. What basically it will do, it will download this file, and before downloading, this content will be added inside this file. So that's why we have passed the data here. So if I save this controller, back to browser, reload this page, now as we can see here, welcome.txt file successfully downloaded. So if I press here to open this file, go to slides, and now inside this file something called welcome.txt, as we can see that we have successfully added the dynamic data from our controller to this dynamic created file. So successfully guys, inside this video we covered about directory helper as well as download helper. So if you have any query inside this video session guys, then please drop your comment. I will give my reply as soon as possible. So for this video session guys, thank you for watching and have a great day.